All right, welcome in everybody to episode 16 of Taking the Field with Stevie Mac. That's me, Stephen MacDonald. And the thing that I want to get into with this particular episode is the article by Dennis Dodd of CBS Sports talking about whether or not the Power 5 schools in the NCAA could actually be separating or breaking away from the NCAA in the relatively near future. So Dodd really digs deep into this question and really tries to find out what would happen or what would need to happen necessarily for this to happen, for the Power 5 conferences and its member schools to actually separate itself from the NCAA, seemingly creating this whole separate entity from this governing body that is the NCAA. And really, when you read through the article, what it comes down to is this, that the Power 5, especially when it comes to football, seem to almost govern themselves in a way within their own conferences. And they act somewhat independently from the NCAA already. And at one point in the article, he mentions a man by the name of Vince Thompson, who is the CEO of a Atlanta-based sports marketing firm, and he says that Thompson says that basically the separation could come in the next 2 or 3 years or so, thanks in large part to COVID-19 bringing down the national economy here in America, and also, as a result, bringing down the economy of college athletics along with it. And another point that they make in the article is that college basketball, and more specifically with March Madness itself, is ultimately kind of seen as the tipping point here between the NCAA and the Power 5 schools and this potential divorce that we might see between the two. And when you look at what colleges have been forced to do here in 2020 without playing the March Madness tournament, you can only imagine what it would be like if they had to do it for, let's say, another year in 2021, because there's still a lot of speculation of how or if certain sporting events will take place in this upcoming academic and athletic school year for most colleges, and whether or not they're even going to be playing or how they're going to be playing and things like that. And really, the NCAA tournament is what the NCAA deems as kind of the backbone of what they do financially, because they make billions upon billions of dollars just off that 1 month or so of playing those games. Then further on in the article, they mention Iowa State's athletic director, Jamie Pollard, who warns of a quote-unquote ice age if college football isn't played this year, because that's really what, for these Power 5 schools, is their moneymaker. And he says that around 80% of an athletic department's budget comes from it, from a $6.5 billion industry that is college football. And at the same time, if no football is played this year, the Power 5 schools would stand to lose about $4 billion, according to the article. So what the pandemic has really done is a couple of things here. It's, first of all, shaken up the foundation of college athletics as we know it, where athletic departments all across the country in several different conferences are basically being gutted, and in some cases, some Power 5 athletic directors are actually worried that some group of 5 members won't even be a part of college education in 2 to 5 years. Not athletics, but actual collegiate education as institutional places of learning, which to me is just absolutely mind-blowing. And then another thing the pandemic has done is it's further widened the divide between the NCAA and its individual conferences, such as the Big Ten, SEC, ACC, Pac-12, the list goes on. And really what it is it's a case of an amateur body, quote-unquote amateur body, which is the NCAA, trying to govern a for-profit business model, which is the athletic departments. And you see it time and time again, especially over the last 5 years or so, the two sides just butting heads constantly, trying to decide which one is right, I guess. And really, COVID-19 has caused athletic directors, university presidents, and conference commissioners to kind of take matters into their own hands when it comes to determining when these athletic events can really get back to running, which most seem like now they're aiming for sometime in mid to late June or even into early July. But then some independently have said that if there's no on-campus in-person classes, there won't be any sports, just plain and simple. But then others have said that they're still planning on having sports, but they'll look to fill their stadiums to 30 to 40% of its capacity, maybe getting to 50% at absolute most, in order to abide by the social distancing rules that are still in place for, especially here in most of the Midwest. But really, as a whole, these things that are happening right now with this pandemic and COVID-19 in college athletics are just some real world examples of cases where the individuals are kind of figuring out how to govern themselves separate from the NCAA, to the point where the NCAA almost has no control over the situation anymore. And especially in this case with COVID-19, the NCAA really has no control over it because other areas of the country are in different places with this whole situation than others are. So there's no way to unilaterally control the situation. And really, the NCAA has no authority to tell the conferences and its member institutions when or if they'll get back to doing things the way that they normally would, with fall practices happening for football and things like that. Not even just for football, but even later on into the winter with basketball and things like that as well. So really, the NCAA for the last several years now has kind of been losing their grip on things and kind of loosening their control of certain situations when it comes to dealing with these conferences and their institutions. And I think that what the pandemic has done is even more so loosen their grip and their kind of reign over the conferences as a whole and being able to control different situations. So that's kind of what I wanted to get into with this episode, kind of breaking down this article and just kind of really putting a head to where we're at with all this in terms of college athletics and kind of where this situation has brought us. So that'll do it for episode 16. Make sure to like, comment, and share on this post. Also check out takingthefield.com for any past episodes of the podcast. But that'll do it for this one. Thanks for listening.